Be bold. Be brave. Be extraordinary. Be vulnerable. Be real. Be curious. Be true. Be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome to today's episode. Super excited to be here. I've been doing this radio show for over a year on a weekly basis, and it's been such an honor and a pleasure. And a love for those of you that join us live, if you comment, even those of you that have been calling in. For those that don't know, we accept live callers. I am an intuitive, so I tend to be able to download and give you information that you may have blind spots on. And we all have our blind spots. You know, some people think, oh, Catherine, because you're psychic or because you're intuitive, you know everything. I'm like, no, you should hear the stories of my life. And so, you know, when I tell my stories now, most of the stories I tell are sort of from a humorous, like non-judgmental, non-triggered place. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about your past and your past traumas and why talking about those things keep you stuck. And, you know, I'm fascinated by human behavior. I'm fascinated by our ability to heal ourselves. And I'm fascinated by our ability to evolve. You know, we only get at least this go round in this lifetime. We got one body, right? And we got to live it to our fullest. And most people are walking around in a body that they're trying to fix, in past traumas or past patterns that they're trying to solve. And hopefully, today's episode is going to help you have an awakening or an awareness or an aha of why you might. Why you haven't yet been able to find the answer or the solution that you've been looking for. And so we all have a past. We all have things that we wished would have never happened to us, right? But here's what I say. I say, you know, those experiences, they make you who you are today. And if you can get past them, you can use them as a catalyst to springboard your life forward. But if you're going to the therapist every week and you're talking about your depression and you're talking about your anxiety and you're talking about what isn't working in your relationship and you're talking about what your dad did to you 30 years ago, you are recreating that energy and then you're stuck in the energy you're trying to heal. And so most traumas that we are stuck with and patterns that we haven't yet been able to resolve are either nonverbal or preverbal. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the body has a consciousness, right? So the body remembers a car accident from your childhood. The body remembers your dysfunctional childhood or an abusive parent, or maybe you were sexually violated as a kid. Your body remembers that. But here's the deal, our brains are wired to create a story. And so we will use our verbal capacities, our communication capacities to stick ourselves with a trauma. And then we almost, it's something like we don't remember like 85% of those traumas. So we make the story up. So now you've made up a story that isn't true because the truth will set you free. You're sticking yourself with the best version of that story, and you're not allowing yourself to heal. And so if you stuck yourself in a nonverbal, preverbal way, and here's the deal, most of us from the age of 0 to 2, we're not really able to talk. We can maybe say words like mom and dad and no and yes and now and whatever else, like my parents, my first word out of my mouth was shit. And both my parents looked at each other and went, "Uh-oh, we better watch our language in front of our kid." And so it's no surprise that my first word was a swear word. But the point being is that from 0 to 2, we have a whole lot of things that we would like. We wanna get taken care of. Maybe we need our diaper changed. Maybe we're starving or hungry and our parents aren't feeding us. Maybe we're crying because we need something and our parents or a primary caregiver doesn't know what that is. And so what that does is it solidifies a patterned behavior in our nervous system, in our neurological wiring. And the only way to heal it is to go to the energetic root, which doesn't have words. It's preverbal or it's nonverbal. So, preverbal means those moments in your childhood where you don't yet have the mental capacity to be able to string together full sentences, to be able to string together complete comprehension of what you're saying. And as we, as children, have very primary survival needs, and if those needs are met, we begin to trust that our needs will be met and we can not just survive, but thrive. But here's what happens is most people, when they don't process properly those nonverbal, preverbal traumas and past experiences, now those memories are stuck in the body and the body doesn't know how to release them. Like, I shouldn't say that. The body does know how to release them. We can't release them with verbal aptitude. Talking about it is not gonna change it in your physical body, but getting present with the physical body, doing yoga, doing somatic exercises, doing meditation, going into the body and giving the body permission to release those patterns, rewire its ability to survive. So now you're not stuck in survival, you start opening up these channels. And a lot of people go, "I don't like yoga. I can't stretch." And I'm like, "Okay, well, do you like keeping your past traumas in your body? Do you like always feeling like somebody's going to abandon you? Do you like re-triggering your old wounds of rejecting yourself, abandoning yourself, feeling like you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, feeling like something's always wrong with you?" You can't let those primary fundamental root traumas like heal if you're trying to heal them verbally. So, I'm not saying not to talk about them. Please know this. But what I am saying is you're also going to have to find nonverbal ways to release the memory of them out of the cells of your body. You know, my yoga teacher, Coco, out of Aspen, he says, your issues are in your tissues. And when we get in postures like hip openers, like working with the heart and the breath and the spine and getting your head and your heart aligned, when we work with shoulder injuries or we work with, sacrum and tailbone and spine stuff, what we're essentially doing isn't just stretching so you have a better looking body, so you have a fitter version of yourself, which, don't get me wrong, it's all great, right? But the purpose of most yogic practices, when taken from a yogic tradition, and I happen to be a fan. I've taken classes from yoga teachers that are all about the aesthetic, but this teacher in particular is the first actual yogi. I believe I took a college course on yoga, and my teacher was pretty phenomenal. But this man is really bringing back the essence of the purpose of getting present with your body. The body doesn't speak English or Spanish or Japanese or German. The body speaks in the language of energy. And when energy is trapped in the body, it needs you to go within and give it permission to release. Now, maybe you have a walking practice and you like really go, okay, body, I'm going to walk to allow you to release this energy. It's why I love movement, whether it's dancing, whether it's yoga, whether it's skinning up a mountain, running on a trail, walking, you know, any stretching, any massage, any form of movement that includes the body's ability to sort of light up its internal light will help you release those stuck issues that are in your tissues, right? And some of us, we think we know what those issues are, but we actually have no idea. So I'm going to give you a story from my life of an issue that was stuck in my tissues. And until I got to the root of it, I had neck problems for most of my life. And so I've told this story before, but at 2 years old, and look, I'm telling you a version of the story that I remember based on people telling me their version of the story. The truth of what actually happened, I might not ever know, but guess what? Here's the gift of it. I don't need to know. I just need to give my neck and my body permission to release that trapped energy. And so when I do certain yoga postures like bridge, I start hyperventilating and I stay in that pose to go, okay, body, it's okay. You're safe. You're not gonna fall on your head. You're not gonna tweak your neck, right? You're safe. It's okay. So I'm constantly reassuring that traumatic memory stuck in my body that's going, abort, abort, right? Like, don't get in pigeon, which is a posture that really opens up your hips because, something might happen. It might bring back a sexual violation or an unpleasant memory, right? And so I'm telling you the version of the story I remember, and I want you to know that it's not really relevant, but what is relevant is what's underneath it. So I'm 2 years old. I'm a flower girl at this wedding. I've got these adorable, bright blonde curls. I've got this pink dress on. It's the mid 1970s. Yes, I'm that old. And I've got my little woven, wooden basket, and I've got all these flower petals in it. I've got these cute pink shoes and cute pink dress and a pink bow in my hair. And I'm walking down the aisle, spreading these petals, these flower petals, and then we go to the reception, and we're at the reception, and my dad was a drinker. My dad was the life of the party. My dad was a total genius, and I loved my relationship with my dad until I was 13. And then I rebelled against my relationship with my dad. But as a tiny little girl, daddy's arms and daddy's love and daddy playing games with me, and he was such a ball of energy that he was always thinking of things that he could do with us to encourage play in every area of our lives. He encouraged my physical endurance. He encouraged my athleticism. He encouraged my ability to pay attention to my body. And so we're at this wedding, and my dad's, knocking back cocktails and who knows what else. And he decides it's a great idea. He's feeling feisty and fun, and he's proud of his little girl, and I'm his only child at the moment. And so he's taking me in my cute pink dress and my cute pink shoes and my white tights and my big blonde curls and the bow in my hair. And he's tossing me up in the air on the dance floor and catching me, tossing me up in the dance floor and catching me. And he goes to toss me up and he misses. Next thing you know, he tries to catch me. He sort of, you know, catches me, but I flip upside down and I end up hitting my head and my neck on the dance floor. And I want you to know that that moment was not traumatic to my body. Some people might go, "Oh my God," but kids are so resilient. Yeah, my body might have a memory of it. That moment was not traumatic. And so, good part of my life, I was like trying to heal this thing in my neck that was always off. Like I'd wake up some days and I couldn't move my body because my neck was completely out. And I also look back at the moments in my life where my neck went out, my neck was trying to give me information about a decision I was about to make. Life altering decision I was about to make. And my neck goes out to be like, don't make that decision. Don't make that decision. But what we do is you go, oh my God, my neck, it's wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Let me go to the chiropractor, which can release the trauma. But if you're like hell bent on continuing to regurgitate a story of your life, thinking that regurgitating that story will heal you. If you tell the story once and the energy in your body doesn't change, it's not the story. And you got to drop the verbal and allow the energy of the body to release without using words. And there's so many amazing practices on the planet to get you there. You just have to find the one that resonates with you. Everybody does healing in their own way. I have a friend who went through some really traumatic experiences, and they decided to, for 2 years, right, basically interact with nobody. Yes, they went to work. Yes, they have a job where they have to interact with people, but in their social life, in their personal life, they basically decided to stay at home and get to know themselves in the quiet of their own home, right? To cry, to release, to heal, to not take it to the therapist, to not go to a meditation practice, to not go dancing, don't go to yoga, right? This person did it in their own way. So please know that I'm just offering this idea that however you want to do it, you can do it. You have to give your body permission. And sometimes that requires removing yourself from social settings, removing yourself from your friend group, removing yourself from continuing to talk about the problems you think you have, right? And so the trauma that happened for me wasn't my head or my neck hitting the dance floor. The trauma was the 250 people at that reception all of the sudden going dead quiet and making chaos. I grew up in a very strict Irish Catholic family, and my family loved chaos. My aunts and uncles loved talking shit. They loved drinking wine. They loved chain smoking cigarettes. And so at this wedding in the 70s, where I'm sure half the people are smoking because it was allowed at that point indoors, the entire room went silent, and all of a sudden all these people, silently or not so silently, were projecting onto my body that I was not okay. That was the trauma. Preverbal, nonverbal. That was the trauma that stuck me, right? And what that did was, from all of these people's opinions, went, he's not a safe dad. He's not going to take care of her. He doesn't know what he's doing, right? He doesn't. And so a couple of years ago, I closed my eyes. I gave myself permission to go back into the memory with my body, not my head. And I asked to be shown what happened. And I could see the chaos. I'm intuitive, so I see things for a living. I hear things, I feel things for a living. My body is always feeling other people's pain. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I have a pain in my back, it must have been from, skiing bumps for a week last week. Oh my gosh, I have a pain in my back. It must have been from playing soccer and I tweaked it. Or, oh, I have a pain in my back. It must be because I'm getting older. Those verbal messages that we send ourselves just stick the pain in our body more, right? Stick the pain in our body more. And so here I am taking myself back energetically through this trauma that my body remembers. I don't. I only remember it through other people telling me the stories. And I asked my body to show me what happened. What does it need, excuse me, to heal? So it's funny because when I yawn, usually there's a release happening. And so when you're yawning or you start crying, but you can't explain why you're crying, that is the body's way of trying to release things. When you get into a specific yoga posture to open up your hip flexors or open up your groin or open up the inner part of your thighs, your body's releasing anger, resentment, fear, all these trapped things that it doesn't matter where they came from. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter where they came from. And so as I had my spirit take me back to this trauma, I gave myself permission. I didn't need to figure out what happened. I didn't need to overanalyze it. I didn't need to go into a story that something was wrong with me. I didn't need to into a story that something was wrong with my dad, right? I just went, okay, let's see what's there and let's see if we can change it. And what I realized is the majority of the trauma, not that it matters, please know this, was everybody after the accident. That's where the trauma got stuck. And so I went, okay, I'm going to rewrite this story. And I was telling a group of people that I was coaching, and they said, "Oh, did you rewrite the story where your dad throws you up in the air and catches you?" And I said, "Nope. I rewrite the story where my dad's not totally off his rocker. Maybe he's had a few cocktails, he's feeling good, but I rewrite the story where my dad holds me in his arms and he does like a father-daughter dance, right? My heart against his. He's telling me how much he loves me. He's sharing with me, pictures of our future together. He's there for me and has me. And guess what? That eliminates what happened after I fell, which is everybody projecting their energy onto me and my dad. And so when we give ourselves permission to rewrite a story, I didn't need to take it to the therapist. I didn't need to talk bad about my dad. I didn't need to blame my aunts and uncles. I didn't need to, analyze anything. I just needed to let my body energetically rewire that story. And every day we have the chance and an opportunity to rewire the traumas, even if we don't know what they are. So if you have a root fear of abandonment, and a lot of people do, right? Whether you were adopted, whether your primary caregivers, your parents didn't take care of you, whether your grandparents raised you, most of us have a story of abandonment. And then we have stories in our lives to back up the original root story. So, like, oh, my girlfriend left me, my wife cheated on me with my best friend, the amount of trauma that gets recreated. And the reason it gets recreated is because we have a root wound. So my root wound was, it's not safe. My dad is not a safe place for me. So now I've got this vibration going in my body that is sending electromagnetic signals out to the universe to say she doesn't feel safe in relationships. So anyone who wants to take advantage of her, pick her. She'd be really good at taking care of you, but not good at taking care of herself. Right? That was my root wound. And so every relationship I had ever had previously had been toxic to some degree. I didn't feel safe fully expressing myself. I didn't trust that the partner I was with would hold me. I didn't feel safe financially with the person I was choosing or people I've chosen. There's so many things. And so then I can take, oh, I don't feel safe with my husband because he's doing something that's making me feel unsafe. So let me take that problem to the therapist. And now all I've done is made it worse between my husband and I. You guys get this, right? But really, what needs to be healed in order for this whole wound to go away isn't the therapist with my husband. It's the therapist with me, but not from a verbal place. from a kinesthetic, energetic, physical body place where you can access the memory. Doesn't mean you have to see it, doesn't mean you have to know what it is. It just means you go, oh my God, I've got this thing in my body that clearly is hanging on to a memory that's a trauma. I don't know what it is, and I don't need to know what it is. And so when people injure themselves, this is just my personal belief. Okay, working with bodies and people from all walks of life all over the world for the last 2 decades. I believe that when we injure ourselves, there was already a a woot, a root wound. Say that 10 times fast. A root wound stuck in that area of the body, and the body's trying to like knock it out. So I, hurt my shoulder a couple years ago snowboarding, and I dislocated. It's been worse lately. And guess what? The body is trying to get me to heal something. And I'm saying this out loud for the first time, going, oh, yeah, Catherine, just pulling it out of socket isn't going to bring it all the way back in and heal whatever trauma's there. But the beauty of it is, I don't need to use verbal processing to try to heal that wound. And so I believe that any place where we have injured ourselves, right? Any place where we're struggling with its image and we're like, oh, if I could just lose 10 pounds, ain't about the 10 pounds, honey. It's about what's underneath, right? That has a root wound to it. And you haven't yet asked your belly what it intuitively knows. What is it trying to communicate to you? What are you unwilling to digest? The root wound of what you're unwilling to digest. And so if we can take this process and sort of, find ways to close our eyes and go deep within your body to go, body, show me the root wound and show me how I can rewrite that story. So, in the incidents of me being a flower girl at 2 years old, my story that I rewrote was, and I've just done this in the last year and a half, I keep in my head, and I've done it probably 2 dozen times, where I close my eyes. I put on maybe some sound or music that feels healing, that feels uplifting, that helps me stay connected, right? So I don't constantly check out. And I close my eyes and I walk myself back to that moment in time. Instead of my dad throwing me up in the air, I'm rewriting that story and visualizing and imagining my dad holding me doing a father-daughter dance. My dad telling me, sweet nothings about how proud he is that I'm his daughter. My dad making me feel safe. And in the last 2 years since doing that, I have changed my pattern and my habit of choosing toxic men. So I could take it to the therapist, but talking about it never healed it. Taking my partners to my therapist to try to heal a wound between the two of us never worked for me personally. And so if you're out there listening, and I went to grad school to become a therapist. I think therapy can be really powerful, but here's what I suggest and to look for in a therapist is somebody who's also kinesthetically connected and understands the power of holding space for our nonverbal and preverbal memories so that we can heal it, right? I've heard EMDR, which is rapid eye movement therapy. I've heard that's really good. I personally just love meditating, giving my body permission to show me its root wounds. And then I ask my body, show me how to rewrite this story. Show me what is the part of the story that is keeping me in this pattern. And it might be with money, that you have this pattern. It might be in relationships that you have this pattern. It might be in your own like original wounding from 0 to 2, where you didn't get fed enough or your parents left you alone to cry, right? I raised my son knowing like if I can be there for him when he's crying, I'm not going to let him cry it out. I am not going to let him cry it out. If I can be there for him when he's hurt himself and let him know it's okay, if I can let him know it's okay to cry, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to not feel safe. If I can make it safe for him to feel every feeling he's feeling, then I'm going to do the best that I possibly can to show up for him. And, we all were raised in different ways with different parenting styles. None of them are wrong. They're just different and they set up different behaviors. I mean, my son I laughed the other day because I made a joke that was not funny, completely inappropriate. And I looked at him, I said, "You're probably going to be in therapy for years on that one." And he looked at me, he goes, "Probably, Mom, that was really bad." And so my son, even though I try my best, I'm still going to mess him up a little bit. He's still going to have wounding from the way that I raised him. And so if he goes to the therapist and just talks about it, he might not get the resolution that he needs to develop a healthy sense of self in order to move forward in his life. I hope that he's healthy enough to trust himself, to value himself, to know that he is incredible just as he is. And I hope that he values himself enough to choose a partner that meets him in his genius, that holds him in his, sort of challenges, and that makes space for him with his flaws. We're all beautifully flawed in our own ways. And truthfully, choosing a partner in this lifetime is one of the most important choices you'll ever make. Because of my root wounding and because I didn't know how to make space to rewrite the story and rewire my nervous system, I repeated let's see, from 25 to 45, I repeated a very unhealthy pattern, actually, from really 20 to 45. I repeated a very unhealthy pattern of choosing men that were not the right match to encourage my genius and hold space for my flaws. And may you all learn from the fact that if you keep repeating relationships and never really feeling seen, never really feeling like you can fully be your, you know, complete expression of yourself without being judged or without being ridiculed or without being teased or without being made fun of or without being poked like it's something that's your fault, it, then the problem isn't the person, right? And trying to work it out with the person. The problem is that you've chosen from a vibration of a wound. And so when you choose from a vibration of a wound, you will attract people that just reinforce that wound. Kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. And I get so excited about this topic. I haven't yeah, it's just really near and dear to my heart because there are ways to process our traumas that can be efficient, effective, quick, right? Easy to navigate. It doesn't have to be years of tears or lifetimes of thinking something's wrong with you. We just have to do it in a different way where you invite the brilliance and the memory and the genius of the body to show you the energy so that you can sort of rewrite your story, rewire your nervous system, and open up the door to something completely different. So there's definitely more to talk about on this topic. I hope you're hanging on by the seat of your pants going, what else? If you would like to call in live when we get back from the break because you have a specific question you would like to ask, you are welcome to call in and I will unedited sort of channel for you. The phone number to call in is 202 570 7057. So stay tuned. When we get back from the break, we're going to continue this topic and what you can do moving forward.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, my magical friends. So we're back and talking about this topic, right, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, which happens to be, right, the why talking about your past and your past traumas, right, can sometimes keep you stuck. And so if you look at this, when you talk about a childhood memory that still maybe it makes your throat close, maybe you get teary-eyed, maybe you get hot, maybe you get frustrated, maybe you start to clench or tighten up, maybe your teeth and your jaw clench up, maybe you squint, like our bodies, if we pay attention to our bodies will show us when we are locked down on an energy that doesn't open us up. And when we're locked down on an energy, so you're telling a story about now, I love telling stories. I'm writing books. I have several books that I'm currently writing. And when we tell, I'm sort of, I keep a lot of, pots in the oven. It's just how I work. And when we're telling stories, still stuck in the energy of that story, our body will have a visceral physical response, right? A visceral physical response. And so when you clench down, when you are tight, all of a sudden you're trying to heal your trauma from a tightened place. That tightened place is a lower vibration. And I've said this before, but maybe not on the radio show. You cannot heal a problem from a low vibration. So if you're trying to lose weight and you've struggled with your body image or weight for 20 years or 30 years, mine was 20, and you're like, I need to go on a diet, I need to do this. And you're like, I don't like my body. Let me find a solution. If you're in that sort of mindset or frame of reference, you're in a low vibration and you go to look for a solution in a low vibration, you're going to get a low vibration solution that reinforces your sort of idea or reinforces that you think you have a problem. And you're like, see, I have a problem with food. See, I have a problem with my diet. See, I'm lactose intolerant. See, I'm allergic to gluten. See, I can't eat meat. See, and all that does is keep lowering your vibration, keep creating a traumatic response that you indeed have a problem, right? And all that does is impact this this inability to open the door to a different possibility. And so when we are retelling a story of our past traumas or past pains, or, my ex did this, or my, my abuser did this, or my dad did this, or my mom did this, or we're just basically going, the body goes, yep, you're right, so we're going to hang in this vibration and you're not going to be able to get off of it, which is why we get stuck, which is why retelling your story from a stuck place to try to solve or resolve it only attracts solutions that solidify the problem, right? It's kind of mind-blowing. I think it's mind-blowing. And so the way to get out of it is you have to find a way to not retell that story and instead invite the body to energetically show you how to rewrite that story. You can also do it by raising your vibration. So for me personally, getting outside in nature raises my vibration, right? Thinking about my life and the ideas of how I want it to be, appreciating energies as they currently are in my life, right? Raises my vibration. Looking at what I have in my life as gratitude raises my vibration. Moving my body, right? Going out with friends, having a glass of wine and laughing. So there's no right way to do this. This is to invite you to stop looking for a solution that isn't creating a solution. Stop redoing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? It's a quote of Einstein's. You can't solve a problem in the same way you created it. And you can't get out of a problem by doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so we have to do something different. And I believe, I mean, it's kind of why I do what I do, right? I've got my Don't Diet, Be Happy sweatshirt on, the book I wrote, No Judgment Diet, which is just a philosophy I live by, which is you'll never be able to change the things that you judge. You have to bring gratitude and lightness and awareness and appreciation to your life. So if you're judging your partner, taking your partner that you're judging to the therapist, expecting to change your partner, it ain't ever going to work. You have to change yourself. And the way that I believe we can do it in a really healthy, very effective and efficient way is to give the body permission to take us back to our root wounds and then invite the body to rewrite the story of those wounds, like the example I gave before break, which is, instead of rewriting the story where my dad keeps throwing me up in the air and doesn't drop me on my head, I rewrite the story where my dad doesn't even throw me up in the air at all. He's hugging me. He's dancing with his daughter. He's, whispering sweet nothings and telling me to believe in myself and whatever else. But what that did is by doing it enough times, it started to open the door to me realizing I no longer have to choose toxic partners. And so a couple years ago, I was having coffee with somebody and they looked at me and they said, "Why the heck are you single?" And I said, "Because I got to fix my picker. I am not jumping into a relationship. I'm not even dating." This wasn't a date. I was just having coffee with a mutual friend. And I was like, I am not even dating until I fix my picker, until I transform that root wound that has me picking people that just re-solidify the wound. And so it's a really important topic for any of you out there. If you're having trouble with your husband, stop talking about the problems you have with your husband. Start looking at what are the root wounds you have, right, from your childhood with your relationship with your dad. What are the root wounds you have from your childhood with your mother and your relationship with your mother or your siblings or your school or your teachers or your religion or your coaches? There's so many places where we get sent these messages. And I'm raising my son, and there are going to be things that he learns in school that I don't agree with. And it's my job as his parent to invite him into his genius, into his magic, into where I know that he's thriving. And so, as a whole, scholastic studies isn't for everybody. I was not a smart kid in school, but I was a smart kid when it came to street smarts. I was a smart kid when it came to my kinesthetic abilities and my sense of space. I was a smart kid emotionally, right? And so there's 7 different intelligences that we all have coming in as kids, and we can either honor those different intelligences and grow them, or we can dismiss those different intelligences because somebody isn't book smart, right? Or somebody isn't street smart, or somebody isn't emotionally intelligent. Like, it's our job to build up our intelligences and discover where we're best at thriving and living. And that includes letting go of the judgments that you have of what you think is wrong with you. There are people on the planet that are financially intelligent in a way that's like mind blowing to me. And yet people look at me and go, "Catherine, you're so financially intelligent in how you have created money, how you've built your life, how you've been able to travel the world, how you've been a single mom, how you live in Aspen, how you pay full price, you keep going. Like, what are you doing?" And it's like, well, I just have this belief that it's possible. And so every single one of you has the possibility in you to tap into the physical intelligence that you have with your body. And that physical intelligence, it might be auditory. That physical intelligence with your body might be visual. That physical intelligence with your body might be sensory related, like sensing the body, or it could be feeling and your emotions. And so there's no right way or wrong way to do this, but this is to invite you. If you're somebody out there and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I keep telling the same story over and over again about my body," your first thing that you want to do is stop it. Really, truly stop it. It's not going to get you anywhere. I gave this analogy to somebody on the gondola the other day, and I said, um, if you were to, have a table, like a wooden table, this beautiful dining room table, and you're like, "Oh my God, there's a scuff on the table in the middle of the table. Uh-oh, I better try and get rid of it by either sanding it, right? Or maybe I should take a saw and try and like saw that little chip in the wood table away. Well, every time you talk about the problem you don't want to recreate, it's like taking a saw to a wooden table. And every time you bring out that story, eventually you're going to break this beautiful wooden table in half. And now you're going to have to repair it with glue. It's never going to be the same, right? Unless you maybe take it to an expert woodworker who can redo it. But you'll know there'll always be this sort of cut, excuse me, in your wooden table. And so if you're telling your stories, it's the hardest thing to do is to stop it. I remember in grad school, I was telling myself the story. So I had, in my early 20s, I had created a lot of money. I bought a home. I had actually three investment properties, and I lost it all after my divorce, gave up everything, let go of my successful business, and moved to Colorado to start grad school. And in grad school, I didn't have a lot of money. I had to start completely over. And I basically took out a $100,000 loan to get to grad school, right? Student loans. And so I was telling myself the story, well, I don't have the money. I'm broke. I can't afford it. Right. And I remember one time somebody inviting me to a dinner I really wanted to go to. But I was telling myself the story. I can't afford it. I'm broke. They were already going to pay for me and I didn't know it. But because I had been telling myself the story, I can't afford it, I missed out on doing something that would have been a really amazing experience. And so I remember looking at it and going, oh my God, I keep telling myself I'm broke. What am I doing? I'm recreating a story I don't want to relive. In that moment, I said, I said, I'm not going to tell myself that story anymore. What can I tell myself? What words can I say that will open up a door to a different possibility? So I started to say, oh, thank you so much for the invitation. Would you ask me next time? I'd love to go. And guess what? Next time would come and I'd have the money and I'm like, yes. And so what it did is it built up my ability to tell myself a different story with abundance. Right? To create, because I knew what it was like to have all the money in the world. I was the one that was paying for all my broke friends. And then all of a sudden I'm broke and I don't have any wealthy friends paying for me, at least but I was blocking myself from letting wealthy people into my life because of the stories I was telling myself. So if you are struggling with your weight, you're blocking and you keep telling yourself a story, you're struggling with your weight, you're blocking yourself from attracting a high vibration solution because you're in a low vibration state. So you can't change it. You can't open the door for a different possibility. Really, really, truly fascinating, my friends. There are so many ways that you can change your vibration and change your story. And, a few months ago, I decided to do this class called People Pleasing the Class because I started to see that the majority of wounds that we have started preverbal, nonverbal, but then the way that we solidified those wounds and we kept recreating them was in order to survive, we became people pleasers. We started walking on eggshells. We felt guilty for saying no. If someone asked us out, we would over explain and over justify and over defend if we couldn't do it, right? And so I started to do this research on people pleasing, and I found, and this is just my own personal opinion, I believe that the majority of our wounds that we kind of stick ourselves with and the places where we're stuck in our bodies and the reasons why we haven't been able to heal our health challenges, or we haven't been able to transform our physical bodies, or we haven't been able to change our story with wealth is because we're still stuck in a people pleasing pattern, which keeps us in fight or flight, fawn or freeze, which keeps our cortisol levels spiked, which keeps our nervous system taxed. When we can't relax, our immune system gets compromised, our heart health and our blood oxygen levels get compromised, our good gut bacteria gets compromised, our intestines and our ability to digest gets compromised. It's like a whole slew of insane things. And I truly believe that this class will change your ability to exactly what we're talking about. Change the story of your wounds, recreate a new way of being so that your stories of your past can, become a novel that get you best-selling author, but you're no longer stuck with the trauma, right? You're no longer stuck with the trauma. I have a life full of stories of all of my quote unquote traumas, but I'm able to tell them now from a place of this is funny, right? This is actually a Hollywood movie. And so for all of you out there listening, please know that wherever you are with whatever wound you have, abandonment, not good enough, wrongness, you don't have to keep recreating the story. You can find a way to go back in time and give your body permission to find the magic within you, because it is within each of you. And you just have to ask yourself, do you still want to keep recreating your past? And if no, highly recommend you download Healing Your Nervous System, a free download on my website. You can go to my website and check out some really great resources, free videos, information. If you're like, wow, I'm in, Catherine, I've got a lot of online courses. You can join at any time, and I will be there for you on a weekly basis to coach and to facilitate you through some of the things you haven't yet found a resolution for. So thank you for joining us on today's show. If this impacted you, let us know. If you think someone else would benefit from this, please feel free to share it, like, subscribe, and we can't wait to see you next time. As always, be amazing, and you got this.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.